guys, welcome back to Lord of the Reeds. I know I'm a day behind already, and it's because of everything going on. But I made a promise, and a promise is a promise, so here we go. If I look like I'm a little bit green around the gills, it's because my fiance is driving 2,000 miles cross country over the next week or so, and I am absolutely petrified. So yeah, anyway, let's get this started. Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Alright, let's get to The Fellowship of the Ring, being the first part of the Lord of the Rings. Book 1. Chapter 1. A Long-Expected Party. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 11st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Bilbo was a very rich and very peculiar, and had been the wonder of the Shire for 60 years, ever since his remarkable disappearance and unexpected return. The riches he had brought back from his travels had now become a local legend, and it was popularly believed, whatever the old folk might say, that the hill at Bag End was full of tunnels stuffed with treasure. And if that was not enough for fame, there is also his prolonged vigor to marvel at. Time wore on, but it seemed to have little effect on Mr. Baggins. At 90, he was much the same as at 50. At 99, they began to call him well-preserved, but unchanged would have been nearer to the mark. There were some that shook their heads and thought this was too much of a good thing. It seemed unfair that anyone should possess, apparently, perpetual youth as well as, reputedly, inexhaustible wealth. He remained on visiting terms with his relatives, except, of course, the Sackville Bagginses, and he had many devoted admirers among the hobbits of poor and unimportant families. But he had no close friends until some of his younger cousins began to grow up. The eldest of these, and Bilbo's favorite, was young Frodo Baggins. When Bilbo was 99, he'd adopted Frodo as his heir and brought him to live at Bag End, and the hopes of the Sackville Bagginses were finally dashed. Bilbo and Frodo happened to have the same birthday, September 22nd, Hobbit Day. "You had better come and live here, Frodo, my lad," said Bilbo one day, "and then we can celebrate our birthday parties comfortably together." At that time, Frodo was still in his tweens, as hobbits call the irresponsible 20s between childhood and the coming of age at 33. Okay. 12 more years passed. Each year the Bagginses had given very lively combined birthday parties at Bag End, but now it was understood that something quite exceptional was being planned for that autumn. Bilbo was going to be 11, 111, a rather curious number and a very respectable age for a hobbit. The old Took himself had only reached 130. And Frodo was going to be 33. 33, an important number, the date of his coming of age. Tongues began to wag in Hobbiton and Bywater, and rumor of the coming event traveled all over the Shire. After the feast, more or less, came the speech. Most of the company were, however, now in a tolerant mood, at that delightful stage which they called filling up the corners. They were sipping their favorite drinks and nibbling at their favorite dainties, and their fears were forgotten. They were prepared to listen to anything and to cheer at every full stop. "My dear people," began Bilbo, rising in his place. "Hear, hear, hear," they shouted, and kept on repeating it in chorus, seeming reluctant to follow their own advice. Bilbo left his place and went and stood on a chair under the illuminated tree. The light of the lanterns fell on his beaming face, the golden buttons shone in his embroidered silk waistcoat. They could all see him standing, waving one hand in the air, the other was in his trouser pocket. "My dear Bagginses and Boffins," he began again, "and my dear Tooks and Brandybucks and Grubs and Chubs and Burrowses and Hornblowers and Bolgers, Braceguttles, Goodbodies, Brockhouses and Proudfoots." "Proud feet!" shouted an elderly hobbit at the back of the pavilion. His name, of course, was Proudfoot, and well merited. His feet were large, exceptionally furry, and both were on the table. "Proudfoots," repeated Bilbo. "Also my good Sackville Bagginses that I welcome back at last to Bag End. Today is my 111th birthday. I am 11 today. Hooray! Hooray! Many happy returns!" they shouted, and they hammered joyously on the tables. Bilbo was doing splendidly. This was the sort of stuff they liked. Short and obvious. "I hope you are all enjoying yourselves as much as I am." Deafening cheers, cries of yes and no. Noises of trumpets and horns, pipes and flutes, and other musical instruments. There were, as has been said, many young hobbits present. Hundreds of musical crackers had been pulled. Most of them bore the mark Dale on them, which does not convey so much of the hobbits, but they all agreed they were marvelous crackers. They contained instruments, small, but of perfect make and enchanting tones. Indeed, in one corner some of the young Tooks and Brandybucks, supposing Uncle Bilbo to have finished, since he had plainly said all that was necessary, now got up an impromptu orchestra and began a merry dance tune. Master J.R.R. Took and Miss Milliot Brandybuck got on a table with bells in their hands began to dance the Springle Ring, a pretty dance but rather vigorous. But Bilbo had not finished. Seizing a horn from a youngster nearby, he blew 3 loud hoots. The noise subsided. "I shall not keep you long," he cried. Cheers from all the assembly. "I have called you all together for a purpose." Something in the way that he said this made an impression. There was almost silence, and 1 or 2 of the Tooks pricked up their ears. "Indeed, for 3 purposes. First of all, to tell you that I am immensely fond of you all, and that 11 years is too short a time to live among such excellent and admirable hobbits." Tremendous outburst of approval. "I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve." This was unexpected and rather difficult. There was some scattered clapping, but most of them were trying to work it out and see if it came to a compliment. "Secondly, to celebrate my birthday." Cheers again. "I should say our birthday, for it is of course also the birthday of my heir and nephew Frodo. He comes of age and into his inheritance today." Some perfunctory clapping by the elders, and some loud shouts of "Frodo! Frodo! Jolly old Frodo!" from the juniors. The Sackville Bagginses scowled and wondered what was meant by "coming into his inheritance." "Together we score 144. Your numbers were chosen to fit this remarkable total. 1 gross, if I may use the expression." No cheers. This was ridiculous. Many of his guests, especially the Sackville Bagginses, were insulted, feeling sure they had only been asked to fill up their required number like goods in a package. 1 gross indeed. Vulgar expression. "It is also, if I may be allowed to refer to ancient history, the anniversary of my arrival by barrel at Esgaroth on the Long Lake, though the fact that it was my birthday slipped my memory on that occasion. I was only 51 then, and my birthdays did not seem so important. The banquet was very splendid, however, though I had a bad cold at the time, I remember, and could only say, 'Thank you very much.' I now repeat it more correctly. Thank you very much for coming to my little party." Obstinate silence. They all feared that a song or some poetry was now imminent, and they were getting bored. Why didn't he stop talking and let them drink his health? But Bilbo did not sing or recite. He paused for a moment. "Thirdly, and finally," he said, "I wish to make an announcement." He spoke this last word so loudly and suddenly that everyone sat up who still could. "I regret to announce that, though, as I said, 11 years is far too short a time to spend among you, this is the end. I am going. I am leaving now. Goodbye." He stepped down and vanished. There was a blinding flash of light, and the guests all blinked. When they opened their eyes, Bilbo was nowhere to be seen. 144 flabbergasted hobbits sat back speechless. "I don't care. Don't you worry about me. I am as happy now as I have ever been, and that is saying a great deal. But the time has come. I am being swept off my feet at last," he added. Then in a low voice, as if to himself, he sang softly in the dark, "The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. How far ahead the road has gone, I must follow if I can. Swing it with your feet till it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet. Whither then I cannot say." He paused, silent for a moment. Then, without another word, he turned away from the lights and voices in the fields and tents, and, followed by his 3 companions, went round into his garden and trotted down the long sloping path. He jumped over a low place in the hedge at the bottom and took to the meadows, passing into the night like a rustle of wind in the grass. Gandalf remained for a while, staring after him into the darkness.
"Goodbye, my dear Bilbo, until our next meeting,"
he said softly, and went back indoors.
"I don't understand,"
said Frodo.
"Neither do I,"
answered the wizard.
"I have merely begun to wonder about the ring, especially since last night. No need to worry, but if you take my advice you will use it very seldom or not at all. At least I beg you not to use it in any way that would cause talk or rouse suspicion. I say again, keep it safe, keep it secret."
"You are very mysterious. What are you afraid of?"
"I am not certain, so I will say no more. I may be able to tell you something when I come back. I am going off at once, so this is goodbye for the present."
He got up. "At once?" cried Frodo. "Why, I thought you were staying on for at least a week. I was looking forward to your help."
"I did mean to, but I've had to change my mind. I may be away for a good long while, but I'll come and see you again as soon as I can. Expect me when you see me. I shall slip in quietly. I shan't often be visiting the Shire openly again. I find that I have become rather unpopular. They say I am a nuisance and a disturber of the peace. Some people are actually accusing me of spiriting Bilbo away, or worse. If you want to know, there's supposed to be a plot between you and me to get hold of his wealth."
"Some people!" exclaimed Frodo. "You mean Otho and Lobelia. How abominable! I would give them Bag End and everything else if I could get Bilbo back and go off tramping in the country with him. I love the Shire, but I begin to wish, somehow, that I had gone too. I wonder if I shall ever see him again."
"So do I," said Gandalf, "and I wonder many other things. Goodbye now. Take care of yourself. Look out for me, especially at unlikely times. Goodbye."
Frodo saw him to the door. He gave a final wave of his hand and walked off at a surprising pace, but Frodo thought the old wizard looked unusually bent, as if he was carrying a great weight. The evening was closing in, and his cloaked figure quickly vanished into the twilight. Frodo did not see him again for a long time. Alright guys, I'm going to read chapter 2 later today, but at the moment my nerves and worry are giving me a rather nasty stomachache. So that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'll check back in for Hobbit stuff next Thursday. If I can, I may be otherwise occupied. Until then, God bless and Namari.